Invocation and pledge. May we bow in an attitude of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day in Washington County. Thank you for the opportunity to serve, to assist others. And Lord, just direct us and guide us. Use us for thy service. And may you continue to bless Washington County and all of its fine citizens. We ask these things in your precious name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good morning. We'll officially call our meeting for July 11th to order here this morning, and we're going to hold off and approve the minutes of June 27th at our next meeting when we have possibly a full board. With that, we'll go right into commissioners' reports and comments. And
Yeah.
Yes, please. I thought.
Thank you, President Barr. I just highlight a couple of things. You know, there's always a lot going on in the county. Commissioner Klein and I went to an Eagle Scout ceremony over the weekend for Matthew D. Smith, who is in Troop 14. It was his ceremony to become an Eagle Scout, and we have those regularly in the county. It's quite an accomplishment, and it is rewarding to see all of the community activity and support from family, the kids in the troop, and those that are volunteering. It's just another example of the significant volunteer effort that we have in our community, which makes it a richer and more beneficial place to live. And we congratulate Matthew D. Smith on his hard work in becoming an Eagle Scout, and enjoyed seeing the mayor of Smithsburg and Dale Fishhack there also helped commemorate that day. I think you're probably going to comment on this, Mr. Barr, the agricultural week coming up, the 15th to the 22nd, but I'll hit it hard, and I know a lot of farmers are geared up for that. Our neighbors, the Malats, are planning on having at least 31 animals, farm stock there for display and competition. Over the past 2 weeks, I've had the opportunity to talk to a number of our road crews from our highway department that are out working and seeing what they're doing. They're working hard, 10-hour days or more, and there's a lot being done. There's just a lot of good work being done by our staffs. Quite often our road crews and people working waste management and things don't get the accolades, but I want to thank them for the work that they're doing day in and day out in support of us, in addition to our public safety teams that are working, whether they're fire, EMS, or, in Brian Albert's Sheriff's Department. A lot of very good work. If we track that every day, we get the alerts about what's going on. There's just so much happening, and the responsiveness, professionalism, and I think the high quality of our teams out there in the public safety arena deserve more recognition than they get. And on a day-to-day basis, they're out there facing very difficult situations, dealing with people that are in trouble, and a big thank you to our public safety people, as well as those that are doing harder work in the hot sun along our roads. And with that, I will close.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Klein.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to bring to attention to thank the Sheriff, Andrew Eishelman, and other staff that was down there for the Route 67 meeting for traffic control down there on that highway. Thank you for conducting that meeting. And Mr. Eishelman, I did contact you about the railroad tracks at Oak Ridge. I'm getting a lot of calls about it. It is pretty rough, so I know that's in CSX's control, but anything we could do to facilitate that repair, I would thank you for that. I also did attend the Eagle Scout ceremony for Matt Smith. That was a nice event. Last night I attended the Sharpsburg Town meeting, and they did a thank you and appreciation night for their resident deputy Peyton, who is now retiring, and his replacement was there to be introduced to the town. He's like their community resource officer, so to speak. So that was nice, and thank you to Deputy Peyton for his years of service. I did attend the 160th anniversary of the Battle of Falling Waters. There was a nice turnout down there. Mr. George Franks is he bought the former Donnelly home where the battle following the retreat from Gettysburg, and a major crossing and battle was held on that property there, so thank you for him. Sharpsburg also on Saturday conducted a Founders Day event, the 260th anniversary of their town, and they had a ceremony gravesite for the founder, Joseph Chaplin. And I also stopped by the Washington County Historical Society on Saturday. They had the original plat of Hagerstown restored, and it was pretty neat to see the old drawings and design and the handwork that took to draw that, so that was very nice. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein. Also, I was at the Route 67 citizens' participation and concerns there with the traffic on Route 67. I know the sheriff's here this morning, and appreciate everyone's feedback and input, and we can continue to work with the State Highway Administration to make some inroads, if you will, down on that thoroughfare, particularly when school starts and the school buses start traveling, and in the area of Pleasant Valley Schools. So whatever we can do as commissioners, very supportive of the folks in that area, and support MDOT's initiatives, maybe expeditedly, if that's possible. So I had the opportunity to attend the Salute to Independence. It was held at Hagerstown Community College, very nice event. Hats off to Elizabeth Schultz and the symphony and all the musicians. It was delayed, I think, twice due to rain showers and some storms, but all in all, it turned out to be a very nice evening, and the symphony did a fantastic job as always, and the fireworks were superb. So thank you to Jim Klauber and all the staff there at the community college, and for their cooperation. I know there's initiatives in our community to restore the Salute to Independence back down to Antietam battlefield, and I know everyone's interest is at heart there and trying very hard, so we'll see what happens. But Jim Klauber said, welcome to the college, and I don't want you to leave. So, but it was taken well received. There's a number of other things that have been happening, as you've heard, and upcoming events. Today, immediately following our meeting here, the commissioners will be touring Beacon House down the street to review their nonprofit and initiatives in our community to help citizens of Washington County. Grand opening of Urban Works at 6 West Washington Street on the 12th. Networking and centennial recognition of Crystal Grottos on the 13th. Grand opening of Kelgard General Contracting on Governor's Lane in Williamsport on the 14th. The Chamber's July Bash, July the 20th. Ameriserve Financial Bank out on Shank Farm Way. And as already been mentioned here this morning, the annual Great Fair, Ag Expo, starts this weekend, July 14th through the 22nd, and there'll be a number of folks, particularly the agricultural community, that will spend week plus sleeping there, taking care of their animals, and it's quite an event in our community.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess the tractor pulls and the
Absolutely.
demolition derbies and rides for the kids and fair rides and all of that. It's quite a family event, so we should highlight that.
Right. Absolutely. It's quite an event in our community. So also, reminder, there is no commissioners meeting next Tuesday, and our evening commissioner meeting is scheduled in Hancock on the 25th. So everyone keep those dates and times on their radar screen. With that, any other?
Yeah, I would like to.
Yes.
I failed to recognize, last night at the Sharpsburg Town Meeting, Eric Jacobs from DES and Cody Shaw from Emergency Management was there and gave the town a briefing on how to contact, who to contact, and the protocol for any types of emergencies. So they, too, did a very good job last night.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, we'll move into staff comments. Do you have anything?
Just briefly, good morning, Commissioners. As you know, some of our employees are represented by AFSCME. Our local 2677 unit was affiliated with Council 67 of AFSCME, but Council 67 has merged into Council 3. The union has requested that we execute a memorandum of understanding acknowledging that merger and acknowledging that Council 3 is the organization that will be handling the union responsibilities pursuant to our collective bargaining agreement.
Is that, we need to vote on that or a consensus?
It's just a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding acknowledging the union transfer.
Motion to approve.
I second.
Okay, motion and second to approve is submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same side. 3-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Michelle?
Senior leadership at the county just finished up the Leadership Excellence Training Program at HCC's Valley Mall campus. I, along with other senior county staff, attended this weekly program, and it lasted about a 10-week period. I attended a tour at Brook Lane's facilities with the commission. I also attended a grand opening at Sidling Hill Financial in Hancock the last week of June, and the grand opening of Nala May Hair Studio the last week of June on Jefferson Street, or Jefferson Boulevard here in Hagerstown. I also attended the Maryland 67 Traffic and Safety Issues Community Listening and Informational Meeting held in Roarsville on June the 28th, and I'd like to thank Andrew Eshelman, our Public Works Director, for coordinating and facilitating this meeting. He was well prepared, and he really did an excellent job. I'd also like to thank Linda Puffenberger from the Maryland State Highway Administration, Sheriff Albert, and Lieutenant Klaus for being available that evening to provide information and to answer questions. At this point, I would like to ask Andrew Eshelman to come up to the stand to provide staff recommendations regarding 2 letters of support regarding the issues on Maryland 67. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Good morning, Andrew.
So as was referenced several times, the June 28th meeting in the Brownsville-Roarsville area, the meeting was very well attended. And as a follow-up action item from that meeting, because the county doesn't have a direct control and say in terms of the maintenance of Maryland 67, that's a state route, as well as some of the action items related to the automated speed enforcement. I've drafted for your consideration 2 letters of support. One is for State Highway to continue to follow through with some of the recommendations, as well as initiate a corridor traffic study to further investigate some of the engineering actions that could be taken to correct some of those issues. And the second to Delegate Wyville regarding legislative solutions regarding automated speed enforcement, particularly at the school there, Pleasant Valley.
We need a motion to.
Motion to approve those letters that we reviewed.
I second the motion.
Okay. Motion and second to approve both recommendations, both letters. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. That's everything that I have.
Okay, any other staff reports or comments? Hearing none, we'll move into citizens' participation. I'm not sure if we have participation here this morning, but I'll read. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment about an issue or issues of county practices and interests. This is not an interactive dialogue or question and answer session. It is solely time to hear citizens' comments. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less. Thank you. With that, any citizens this morning? Yes, come on up.
Name and address.
Yes, we'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, President Barr. My name is Carol Mowen. I am the new president of the Washington County Teachers Association starting July 1. Neil Becker has returned to our classrooms, having been term limited out. We are on Oak Ridge Drive in Hagerstown, and we wanted to just come before you and introduce ourselves, give you a little update about the school activities over the summer. So before I continue, I will allow my compatriots here to introduce themselves.
I'm Mary Herringa. I am the new UNISERV director for WCTA, so I work for the Maryland State Education Association and have been assigned to the Washington County Teachers Association.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Eric Yeckley, I'm the Vice President of WCTA.
We wanted to come before you and let you know that we appreciate your support of the school system. We certainly hope that you will continue to consider additional funding for the school system as the year continues, as your budget adjustments allow. I also wanted to take a moment and thank all of our school employees who are working hard over the summer. Summer school is in session. Many of our teachers are still at work. Our bus drivers are on the road. Our support staff is active, and certainly all kinds of maintenance activities are happening over the summer. So if you have any questions for us, or if you'd ever like to be in dialogue with us, we are available, and we'd be willing to come and speak before you at any time. Thank you so much for hearing us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best wishes to you, Carol.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Ron Twenty. I'm commander of the Antietam Chapter 312 Korean War Veterans Association. I have two items. First of all, I wanted to come personally to thank you for the generous grant we had last year for our exhibit at the Fort Ritchie History Museum. We had the grand opening on June 9th. Tremendous turnout. This is going to be a big asset to all of Washington County visitors and tourism. We were amazed. People are coming from all over the country so far. Secondly, this year is the 70th anniversary of the ceasefire in Korea. The war is not over after all these years. I would like President Barr, I'm going to have an event on 29th of July. Yumi Hogan will be coming up, First Lady. We will have the embassy there, and we're going to have an event commemorating the 70th anniversary of the ceasefire. So if you could, amongst yourselves, decide who would like to come to be a speaker, I'd greatly appreciate it. I also have the word out to Delegate Wyville because his dad was in some bad stuff there. So I appreciate you allowing me to come in. And again, I want to thank you so much. This museum and this exhibit for the Korean War has been a 2-year project. It's finished, and thanks to you all for helping get that done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's July 29th.
29th.
What time?
Saturday.
Saturday.
At 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. Okay, President, we can do a calendar invite. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Other citizens' participation this morning? Okay, hearing none. We'll move into 2023 Augustoberfest. Jill? Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jill Colbert. I am the chairwoman for Augustoberfest Charitable Foundation. And today with me is Cody Hill. He is our marketing and communications chair. As you know, last year, we hosted our event for the first time since 2019. And knowing that we are starting the events back up after a 3-year hiatus was stressful in of itself. However, moving it from City Center out to the Washington County Ag Center added a little bit onto that stress. Last year, we came here to talk to you about a partnership, forming that partnership, and asking for advice, understanding that we had worked with the city for so long and not knowing what kind of county policies and protocols, and we appreciated everything that you gave us in terms of advice and offering for your help. Today, we come to you just to say thank you for everything, and we wanted to provide some information on how the event ended. After the 3 years, I will say moving it to the Ag Center allowed us to have our largest event to date. After 25 years, we celebrated. We had almost 7,000 people for the weekend, and we were extremely pleased. We had a few little bumps, but nothing major, and not having to have an event for 3 years and going from a place of comfort to a place of unknown, we were pretty pleased with how the event went. Couple of areas just to give you an update on how successful we were. We normally, our main thing for the charitable foundation is we work with our Hagerstown sister city foundation, where we try to raise funds and provide scholarship money to the exchange students that go to Basel, Germany, and for the Basel students to come to America. Normally, on a good year, Augustoberfest was able to provide around $3,000 to the scholarship fund. Last year, we were able to provide $4,000. And on top of that, last year, we were also able to extend some additional foundation money to 3 other nonprofits. So we were able to give $2,000 to Big Brothers and Big Sisters, $2,000 to Boys and Girls Club, and $2,000 to the Women's Club. Our largest to date was $10,000 we were able to provide. So we were extremely happy, and we wanted to come and say again, thank you. And just to give you a little bit of information on what we've been doing this year and how we're making some improvements, and to physically or formally invite you to the event this year. It is August 19th and August 20th. We will be sending out an official invitation for you to attend the 19th at 2 o'clock, which is our keg tapping, and that really officially sets off the weekend. We have so far submitted grants again this year, asking for some money for the Washington County Sheriff's Department, and we have been in touch with those folks to provide what our needs are for that weekend. So they are working on getting some volunteers for the weekend from the sheriff's deputies. We've also put in within the grant for our
I covered waste removal technology add-ons that we needed for equipment. I think that was the majority.
So that's already in motion. So some of the things that we have been changing and what we're enhancing this year, I'm going to hand that off to Cody and let him tell you.
Thank you. So I want to thank Erin and her team at the Ag Center. They were fantastic to work with last year and again this year. So with their help, we were able to get through a very successful weekend. We had a great event, like Jill said. This year, we are going to be adding a welcome center. That was some feedback we had gotten. People just so big. It was very different than downtown. A lot more space. They didn't know where to go. So we're adding that. Also, a lot more signage for ADA accessibility. We tried to make sure that we had pathways clear, everything set up for that. So we did learn a few things. We're going to be adding that, parking, signage, all that good stuff. We're making some moves around the ag just to better accommodate our guests. So we're very excited about that, including adding, moving the vendor space around, adding more. Leslie Hart and her team, they were kind enough to provide us their list from the Groundhog event for all the vendors. So we actually were able to add a few new vendors to the list this year. We're very excited about that. So overall, we think it's really going to shape up to be an even better year, the 26th anniversary, but it's good.
And just to ask if you have any other questions for us as well.
Did you request hotel, motel money from us?
We did.
Yes, that's the grant.
We put that in, and that, like Jill said, that request went in to cover the sheriff's office for the deputies for the weekend, as well as waste removal and then some technology upgrades over the
What was the dollar amount?
Mary Jane put that in, I believe it was $19,800.
I actually have their application right here. Let me take a look. I think it was $24,100 this year. Last year, the grant request was $13,200. We approved $5,000 last year, and I believe that the recommended amount this year will also be $5,000.
Can I ask, you said you had 7,000 people. Do you have any way of knowing, were most of them from Washington County, from the tri-state area here, or, people coming from outside?
We bring a lot in from everywhere, so we don't actually take zip codes or anything like that, but from an attendance standpoint, we do talk to a lot of people. We have a sizable board. So we actually had a bus come down from the Lancaster County, Pennsylvania area. We advertise not just in Washington County, we advertise outside of Washington County down into DC, Rockville, that area. So from an attendance standpoint, we do have folks coming from all over. We have people we know that fly in. We do have a partnership with the Bowman Hospitality, so we do offer hotel room blocks at their properties out by the Valley Mall. So we do have guests that stay there. So we don't have an exact number on those hotel rooms, but we do offer that to our guests.
And so for people that may be viewing this, or however it might be written up, can you explain to the audience what takes place at the Oktoberfest event?
Sure. Augustoberfest, sure.
Yeah.
So it started out 8 years ago now, excluding COVID, as a big family reunion for the mayor's wife at the time, and it developed into an actual charitable foundation. And so we try to be as authentic as possible, giving people the sense of if you can't go to Munich, Germany and celebrate Oktoberfest, you can do it in Washington County. For years, we did it downtown with a big, huge tent. The tent got to be extremely expensive, and therefore, our location was very confined. When we decided to go to the Ag Center last year, we knew we could expand it. And what we did was trying to keep in that authenticity. We made the different pavilions look like different festival houses. So we had the Germany house, we had the Bavaria house, and this year we're actually adding the Maryland house. So it's decorated into that area. We pride ourselves on having the beer is actually shipped over from Germany, and we use German wines. We do have regular sodas and waters and things of that nature. And then the food is made from the Schmuckelstube restaurant from Dieter. We do know that we've received feedback throughout the years. People do come in from the weekends. I've talked to people that come in all the time from North and South Carolina, from Ohio. They love this event. They dress in their authentic wear, and it's just to celebrate. And it's a event that I pride myself in because we cater to every age, from a 2-year-old to an 82-year-old. It's family friendly. The children are in from 12 and under for free. We have an entire separated children's area that's all free. We do face painting, they do crafts. We have the Horns Punch and Judy show, a magic show. Last year we were able to add bouncy houses, so the parents can take their kids there. They can listen to the authentic German bands. We have polka bands, rock and roll German bands. So everything prides itself on being as authentic as possible, and all while we're trying to raise money. We're a charitable foundation. We have one weekend, and we try to raise as much money as we can, and moving it out there allowed us to expand that crowd. And we do advertise in several other states too: Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, and Virginia.
Good. I wanted to make that pitch, so thank you.
I can testify it's a fun event, and you'll smile every single second you're there,
It is a happy event,
even without the beer.
even without the beer, right?
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Comments?
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you. And
Thanks.
again, your invitations will be coming out shortly.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Next item, express approval, City of Hagerstown annexation for Blaine Properties, limited partnership in all the lands of Edward A. Blaine Revocable Trust of 1991. Good morning, Jill.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before you this morning is a request for express approval of an annexation being proposed into the city of Hagerstown. The annexation is for 3 properties owned by the Blaine Properties Limited Partnership and all of the lands of Edward A. Blaine Revocable Trust of 1991. The basis for seeking this express approval comes from Maryland state law. It explains there in your agenda report form that without express approval from the county commissioners or county council, in which the municipality is located, that for 5 years an annexation in a municipality may not allow development of the annexed land to exceed land uses substantially different than what would be authorized under current county standards. In this particular case, the subject parcels contain 28.35 acres. They petitioned the city of Hagerstown to annex within the city under the RMED, or residential medium density zoning district. Currently, the county zoning is residential transition. The RT district is primarily a residential zoning that allows for low-density residential uses for single-family and two-family. The RMED in the city allows for higher densities than the county, which is why we're here today. The RMED zoning allows by right triplexes, quadplexes, and townhouses, where the county's RT zoning does not. When we averaged out the zoning districts comparatively, the county's current zoning district equates to about 4.02 dwelling units per acre, whereas the city's density equates to about 12.02 units per acre. A public hearing was held on May 23rd by the mayor and council to take public comment on the annexation on this petition. 2 people spoke at that hearing and cited concerns about new growth in general, and the impacts of additional growth on roads, schools, water, and sewer. There is no fiscal impact to the county one way or the other for this annexation express approval. With me here today is Mickey Thompson, who is part of the developers group seeking this annexation, and I'm going to allow him to talk a little bit about what they are doing there.
Thank you very much, Jill, and thank you to the members of the commission here. I appreciate the time that you allowed me to spend here to talk about our project. My name is Mickey Thompson. I'm the Vice President of Acquisitions and Land Development, as well as in-house counsel for Burkentine and Sons Builders. We are a 30-year-old company based out of Hanover in York County, Pennsylvania. Over the last 3 years, we have expanded our footprints to not only southern York County, but also into Maryland and to other states along the eastern seaboard. We started off being a small mom and pop shop, and over the last couple of years, and sort of spurred on by the pandemic, where a need for housing was made real in several areas around the country. We were able to keep moving forward. What we do is single-family home sales, and we also have a legacy portfolio of rentals, both townhomes and apartments, that we look into specific markets and determine what's the best fit for the market and what's the future plans for Burkentine. And we came across Hagerstown about 18 months ago when we had an opportunity to put an agreement of sale for the land, and we started looking into the zoning for both the county and the city, knowing what our strengths are as a company, and we saw some issues where we thought we could maybe help out and bring some more housing stock to the county as well as the city. Obviously, there's a growth of different industries coming around this area, and from all our indications, all the studies that we've read, that there is a need for housing. We feel that we're positioned to provide that for this market and do it in a way that provides good housing stock at affordable rates with upgrades from maybe a different type of home builder that would be looking to put a lower end stock here. That's not what we're looking to do. We're looking to add to the area. We have proposed 174 units of townhomes. That is just based off of our density count with our engineers. That number would probably go down somewhat because of roads and access ways. We do have about a 9-acre reservation of forest conservation area to the south of the property that we would not be touching. So all of the development would be going to the northern side of that lot. We are contiguous to the city of Hagerstown. We are I would say in compliance with and relative to what is in the area, we would be right in sort of the same product type with townhouses and higher density dwellings in that area. And note that across to the west on McDade Boulevard, McDade Road, I'm sorry, that the area is zoned for warehousing and light industrial. So having an RT zone right across the street from a light industrial, potentially warehouse site would be problematic for any type of developers to go in there and build housing, knowing what could be built across the street. So, you know, a good transition in our sense would be for something of slightly higher density than what the RT zone allows, henceforth us going to the city and asking for annexation for that issue. With our proposed units, we're really looking at a difference between what the county allows and what the city allows of roughly 90 units. With the 28 acres, doing the density calculations, I could put 81 units there. Under the city of Hagerstown, I could put 243. Again, taking out some of the lands that would be constrained for environmental concerns, we'd be down to 174 units. So we're not looking to over-densify the area. We're not looking to put anything that would not be in conformity with the areas to the north and east of our property. We think it would be a nice transition for that. I understand that there's issues with, you know, potential issues with density and with the schools and all those things, and we're sensitive to that. We've engaged in dialogue with the county to discuss those issues. You know, please note that we would be you know, contributing to the excise tax for this property, come in there roughly about $300,000 based upon a 1,670 square foot product type that we'd be putting in there, a 3-story product type. And there'd be some road improvements, both on-site and potentially off-site, that we would have to look at and contribute to the county, which would only benefit the citizens in that area and would probably be more attractive to any type of commercial, light industrial, warehousing type, because right now McDade Road would not be able to support, at least in my opinion, any type of traffic, especially tractor trailer traffic and any delivery type vehicles. So we think that we're positioned, and obviously we understand controversy and all those things. It's not a desired thing for us to come and ask for express zoning, but we think with all of the economic indicators and the needs of the community to provide housing, this is a perfect opportunity to do so. We are more than happy to go in and discuss what we can do to help offset some of the perceived issues that we are the development may cause. Again, we don't feel that it's severe. We think it's negligible, but we are willing to certainly discuss any options and opportunities that would both benefit the county as well as the local community as well. So with that, I will defer, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to. But again, we like the request the express waiver so that we can get started and start putting our housing community in your fine county and city.
Once annexed, is there any APFO fees for the schools? You mentioned excise tax, but the adequate public facility ordinance, does Hagerstown?
The city does not have an adequate public facilities ordinance, no.
That's probably an issue that we're going to need to have some dialogue with Hagerstown on, because of, if we're going to be moving in a direction with a comprehensive plan, and my personal view is that, there's some real benefits to having some higher density housing areas similar to what you proposed here, within the urban growth zone, but with higher density, and depending upon, what the demographics are, it could put a significant amount of stress on schools. And I'm not talking just about attendance numbers, but depending upon the demographics, we could wind up with more need in areas of sociologists, counselors, family counseling interventionists that we have seen elsewhere in our school system. So I think the what's the term that we use? The adequate APFO, adequate
Public Facility Ordinance,
which is what we have, right, Jill? But the city does not have. And I think, have there been any discussions with the city about?
Yes, we've had numerous discussions with the city, and it is their belief that having the APFO fees like we have proved to be detrimental to them, and having the ability to market competitively new housing requests within the city. So they have opted to not have an APFO for those reasons.
Well, I can understand from their perspective, but it sort of, that perspective denies the reality of the impact, and those costs get pushed onto the county one way or the other in a way that can become detrimental to the overall strategy that we have here, I think, for our school systems and growth. I noted that in the write-up on the schools, you mentioned that there's going to be some growth, additional numbers of students, and the schools that are servicing that area already are over capacity. And there's a mentioning that there is a school, a grade school that's going to be being built, but that's the result of two being consolidated into one in the 25 to 27 time period. And that doesn't cover this area, it covers another area. So that's sort of a straw man that was thrown into the write-up that isn't applicable to the specifics of what we're talking about. I do know that we're going to need more schools and modernization. The challenge here for us overall is going to be, where does the money come from? And every little bit helps in making us get to a balance.
If I can, Mr. Harvey, so part of that, as any government has to figure out, is how do you do that?
Right.
Well, the best way is to expand your tax base, and you expand your tax base by letting people come into the community that aren't already there. So with having that increased tax base with the county, with the city, bringing in more people who are going to be employed in the area for jobs that are to be created, you're serving that purpose as well. And again, we are here, we understand that, and I feel like I'm the space between the hammer and the nail, right? So
Yeah,
I can't make the city put forth an ordinance that they seem to feel that doesn't benefit them. And, I can't lay prostrate before the county ordinance if I'm asking for the property to be annexed into the city. But what I am willing to do is have discussions with the county about what we can do to help ameliorate these concerns that you have. And, obviously there's, density is an issue, but when you go back and when we look historically about what our products bring into the area in terms of children, we look at I believe the number is 0.58. And that study came from a national home builder in the eastern part of the country who performs townhouse construction, and they have made stats as to how many children come in per townhouse. It's about 0.58 children per unit. And what we're looking at is, if you take the numbers, take our 174, it's around roughly 100 children that we'd be bringing into the area. And if you divide that amongst 13 grades, you're looking at 7 kids per unit, so, or per grade. Now, you could have 20 kids that are all in kindergarten, and you could have 0 that are in high school. Like, it's not really a scientific study, but that's just on average. So, I mean, we're dealing with, roughly 7 kids per class, and that's not presupposing that there's kids moving to the area, moving away from the area, that matriculate elsewhere. So I don't think that's an overwhelming number that cannot be accommodated or accounted for. But even in as much as that, we're willing to have discussions in order to allow this to go through. And that's my assertion. I've spoken with Ms. Baker quite a bit about that. That's why I'm here, because if I didn't think this was a worthwhile effort, then I would take my time and my development dollars and move elsewhere within the state or outside the state to put our units in.
No, I understand that, and I don't mean to put you between, the city and the county, but I think it's important that, we move a dialogue forward with them, with the city, on this issue. We won't resolve it here, nor in regard to the specific development, but I think it's an issue that needs to be addressed. Would you agree, Jill?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question. What would be the build-out schedule? How many homes first year, how many second year?
We would, this project, 174 units, we have similar projects. This would probably be 2 to 2.5 years. 30 units or so, 40 units or so per 6 months to a year, depending on supply and delivery and all those other things. So, I mean, I'm thinking 2.5 years.
So are you looking at, what's the breakdown of the townhomes, and what's the price point? So are we looking at a certain number of 2-bedroom townhomes, 4-bedroom townhomes? I've lived in townhomes various times in my life, okay?
Certainly.
And some can be $500,000 as a price point, some can be $180,000 as a price point, depending upon, what the plan is.
So they will be 3 bedrooms, and we go above market in terms of what we put into these units. Granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, higher level of trim. We try to have a look and style, tone and theme that is a trademark of Burkentine. So these aren't.
So the starting price point would be?
Roughly $320 to $380, depending. Okay. And that's just me throwing it out there because, again, I'm not into the Hagerstown market of what those price points are. That seems reasonable to me. We would be building a standard unit, not trying to put any upgrades and get into negotiations with single-family home buyers in their bedroom. Like, we don't do that. So we put a standard product in there, but it's an upscale product, and that's just standard for what we do.
So the other question I had, and that's good information, you have some land reserved for forest, about 9 acres?
Yeah, I believe that's what the Fox engineering plan.
Okay.
Again, we did a preliminary sketch plan just to kind of lay the out. So the 174, we probably will be going slightly down from that once we put the roads in there. Plus, we would put a clubhouse in there that would be the center point of the community with the gym, congregation area, swimming pool, those type of amenities.
Okay, I didn't see that in the evaluation. And the other thing I didn't see is if you're going to have a community area, the reference in the write-up I saw was that for a park, there's a school playground that would be nearby that could be used. I'm not sure that playgrounds are used during the day. I think there are some concerns about that. After hours, probably available, but most townhome communities that I've seen, and you're talking about one with a clubhouse, swimming pool, gym, et cetera, meeting area, they have playgrounds that make them family friendly, so that you can just go down the block.
Yep.
And
like a tot lot.
Right, tot lots and things like that, with some swings, some slides. I didn't see anything in the planning mentioning that.
Mr. Harvey, just because we're at a very preliminary stage, okay, we don't want to spend a couple $100,000 of engineering just to get to this process and hit a bottleneck. So I can assert quite clearly that Burkentine we actually have hired an amenities director who is to put all of these facilities across all of our platforms so that we have a package where there may be tot lot at a minimum, but pickleball courts, like things that would be a centerpiece for the community itself. We just haven't got that far down the road to do so.
Okay, so bear with me.
Sure,
Because I just
absolutely.
want to understand
These are all
this.
good questions.
Okay. If you're starting out at a 320 to 380 price point, I understand that, and, you know, it's hard to get below that and still make money in today's market with the cost of materials and labor. And our workers that are coming into the area, the warehouses are offering, what, $22, $23 an hour for the majority of them. Some are getting more because they are, you know, the engineers are taking care of the high-tech needs of, you know, the automated systems in these warehouses, managers and things. But if we need affordable housing, if you're making $20, $22 an hour, what person can afford 320? What income levels needed to afford $320,000 by your company's assessments? Because you're looking at a targeted. You want to sell these, so you need to know that there's people here that can buy those.
Certainly, certainly. So, you know, I don't want to get into economics discussion because that can go far afield. But we know what the rent is in the area as comparable rent is very high.
Yep.
And the mortgage rates, if you get if interest rates hold, which, you know, we never know what's going to happen, but they're as much as a mortgage payment would be as much as a rent payment would be for particular areas. So the idea is if they're making 20, 22, 24, whatever they're making, they have to live somewhere. And the more inventory, the more stock you have, we live in a competitive market where things start driving down. The worst thing you can do is not do anything, and the existing stock housing prices would be shooting up because of the supply and demand.
Right.
So the best strategy, I think, for any community is to increase the housing stock, right? Now, this wouldn't be Section 8 housing. This wouldn't be any type of, we're not asking for any grants or any type of economic support to do this. I mean, we're a standalone company, but we feel that that's
these are for sale units.
For sale.
You're not going to manage them as rental properties.
We would have a management company. We have a property management company because of the community that we'd be creating in there.
Right, and so there would be standards like, you know, maintenance of properties.
That's correct.
Like housing association type.
And our design, because, you know, speaking with several people, engineers in the city and other planners, you know, there's communities where it's not desirable. Backyards are facing the street. People put playgrounds and play sets and all that stuff. We are not going to allow that to happen as part of our community. We're going to maintain that front street appeal and put all of the parking, everything is like rear-loaded projects so that everything's off the street, and you won't have that type of clutter when you will be driving down McDade Road.
Okay, very good. Jill, where does the water come from?
City of Hagerstown.
And given the shortages of water, and how many EDUs would this be? 174 units and
174 EDUs. This is within the adopted medium-range growth area boundary, so the city would.
But don't they generally have most of do they have excess that they can just allocate to this? Or, because I've noticed in some others, they're taking away from where people thought they were going to be getting water, as we discussed one time. You know, and so is water shifting from one area to another, is my question.
No, this parcel would have been modeled into their medium-range growth area calculations.
As a higher density.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. So the median income for us is $65,000 roughly. 65,000. That means half earn more, half earn less. At 320, you're going to be targeting people making more than $65,000 a year to be able to afford, even with the 20% down. It's if they have the 20%.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, and the other question is, you may have people who want to come into Hagerstown that can't get in here now because of supply and, you know, the stock of what you have now, and they may be wanting to come into the county to be closer to their work as it is. So we can't discount, I mean, obviously there is a job deficit here, but there's also people who want to move into the area and who may not feel comfortable or want to move into a brand-new community or like the amenities that we're going to be providing. Like, there's a lot of different issues that we hear from people coming into our communities. Those are the several of them.
Well, sorry, your first name again is?
It's Mickey.
Mickey, okay. Mickey, I'm for the idea of higher, you know, some higher density housing within the growth zone. This is within the growth zone. I am, you know, philosophically, I support this, but I have some additional questions for my staff to get to the bottom of a few things, and I would like to understand. You've said the right things to me, but you know, none of that is locked in, so it could all change immediately after exiting here. So I'd like to table this. I'd like a motion to table this so I can get a few more answers and clarify a few things. But philosophically, I support this. I just need a little more time to get some more answers, if that's reasonable.
President, I'll second it to table this.
Motion and second to postpone.
Could I just ask one question before we vote? You know, if we table this for a little bit till I get some answers, that won't impact you tremendously if we can turn this around relatively quickly?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'd appreciate that, because I don't know if we have or the owners of the property have the stomach to wait 5 years until the moratorium would go away. You know, and again, I would assert, and if we could have discussions with members of the staff of the county about some of your concerns and how we can address them, I'm certainly willing to have those conversations. You know, we understand we do not want to be seen as a negative to any community that we enter. We want to be a positive. And everything that we do, we work in partnership, whether we want to be partners or not. And one thing that one person does impacts the other, and vice versa. So we want to make sure that we're welcome here, and we want to be members of the community, active members of the community. And you know, we have other projects in the area that we're looking into.
We want companies like you in the area, and we want to move to higher density. And you provided some more granularity than I got in the read-ahead about what the design and intent is. So
Okay.
I vote aye.
Motion and second on the floor. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank you
for
for
your
your
patience,
courtesy. I
Mickey.
appreciate it.
No, I really appreciate you being in here, and, you know, really good answers. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, next item is FY25 Family Law Fund, approval to submit application and accept awarded funding. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Kristen Gross-Nichols, Circuit Court Administrator.
Good morning, Nicole Phillips, Grant Manager, Office of Grant Management. We are here today for a motion to approve the submission of the FY25 Family Law Fund application in the amount of $396,986 and accept awarding as funded. This grant provides funds from the Department of Juvenile and Family Services Grant Program of the Maryland Judiciary each year to Washington County's Circuit Court to deliver appropriate services available for low-income families who appear before the court to resolve family legal matters. Each court within the state of Maryland is required by Maryland Rules 16-307 to have a Family Support Services Division to implement the goals and objectives as set forth by the DJFS. Through the Department of Family Services Grant Program, the following services are funded: salary and fringe benefits of the Family Support Services Coordinator and Permanency Planning Liaison, Family Law Advice Clinic, and as funding allows, family services programs such as parent education classes, custody evaluations, children's attorney, mental health/substance abuse evaluations, parenting coordinators, alternative dispute resolution/mediation, and supervised visitation. This grant is annually reoccurring. The funder does cap pay increases at 3.5%, so if there are any pay increases in FY25 in excess of the 3.5%, the circuit court will need to allocate funds within its approved budget for this expense.
Questions, discussion?
Do we have an opportunity to seek more than what we requested in this grant?
I'll defer to Kristen.
We could, but we base our request based on the total funding amount provided by the judiciary to all the counties in the city of Baltimore, and then based on historical spending to try to be reasonable with our request that, to make it fair for every county across the state.
So this is a request. What is your actual need? If you were doing a bottom up, this is what we need to be doing. We have this demand signal. In order to be fair and provide these services, for example, a child that's had an abusing parent on drugs, and there are other custodial family members that are interested in being involved, and you're working through that process through various aspects of this.
So
I hear a lot of need out there.
Yeah, there certainly is. I will say, I'm going to be honest, the actual need, I don't have that number. The judges every year know what our funding allocation is, our family services coordinator. Once we get approval for our grant, she makes sure they all know this is what we have in each category. And they're very good at, when they are ordering for costs to be paid, staying within that budget. We do max out every year, but every other court across the state does as well. And I will say majority of our funding, besides the salary, but for the programs, is either for the Family Law Clinic, which we have expanded to 2 days a week. Through the grant, we asked for additional funding for fiscal year 23 to expand that, and that has provided tremendous help to our citizens. And then the second will be for best interest attorneys, for the attorneys representing the children in court. Those are the biggest areas where we're seeing the funds being spent. After that would be the mediation and ADR. But to give you an exact number, I honestly don't know. I'd have to talk to my family services coordinator on that. I know typically we actually are awarded less than what we ask for. I think most counties are, and so we do try, like I said, we do try to be reasonable within our requests, considering, what funding overall is available throughout the state.
Okay, I just wonder if you asked for more, if they would still give you 80% of whatever you asked for. So if you asked for $500,000, if they might give you an additional 20.
We do have, for our grants, we are required to, our coordinators are required to submit stats every quarter based on, the number of cases that we have in each case type.
But how about the ones you turn down? Because you have enough.
There's different criteria as well for who would get assistance for, for best interest attorneys and so forth. There's criteria for income limits and so forth. So they get the case filings to see how many cases are being filed, the income levels of parents, so that when the judiciary, when the Department of Juvenile Services is going before the legislature asking for funds for the entire state, they have all of those stats to support. So, no, I agree. If we could be awarded more funding, I am absolutely in support of that. But we
Kristen,
do try
I'd like to talk to you more offline about this.
Yes.
But, in interest of time,
Sure.
I move to support this grant. Unless there's
Second, support submission and to accept.
Motion and second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you reach out to me? Thank you.
Next item, investment policy statement update. Michelle?
Michelle Gordon, Acting County Administrator. I also have Patrick Wing with Marquette Associates here with me. He's our financial advisor. The investment policy statement sets forth guidelines and objectives for the pension, OPEB, and LoSAP funds. It was last updated by the Investment Committee and the Board of County Commissioners in September of 2020. The Investment Committee has met several times over the last year with the county's investment advisor to review plan performance and plan susceptibility to economic and market conditions. The Investment Committee would like to propose changes to the asset allocation mix that will maximize returns at an appropriate level of risk. Although equities and other growth engine assets generate higher real returns over the long term, equities tend to perform poorly amid an environment of price instability. So when we have inflation and deflation, they tend to perform poorly. And you may have seen that last year when our fiscal year 23 net assets decreased by about $20 million. As interest rates have risen over the last few months, core fixed income yields and returns have also risen, improving the outlook for investment-grade fixed income assets. Recommended asset allocation changes to all three plans include allocation decreases in the equity and high-yield assets and asset allocation increases in core fixed income assets. These changes will help smooth out plan assets and help reduce that market volatility that we experienced in fiscal year 22. We're also experiencing that in fiscal year 23 as we're starting to recover some of what we lost in fiscal year 22. Those asset allocation changes are detailed in the ARF. Additionally, the IPS is included in your ARF. We have concurrences from Kelsey Mace, the Interim Chief Financial Officer, and I'd like to turn it over to Patrick Wing right now to provide you with any additional information or answer any of your questions.
Well, good morning, everyone. Again, Patrick Wing from Marquette Associates. Appreciate your time this morning. I think Ms. Gordon outlined it fairly succinctly and fairly well. You know, as we sit here today, compared to when we met a few years ago, interest rates are much higher, almost 2.5 times higher than where they were at that time, and quite frankly, just provides us with an opportunity to become more conservative with the three county defined benefit funds and still get to where we need to be from an investment return perspective over the long term. So the key impetus around this is really twofold: becoming more conservative and introducing a little bit more diversification to the funds. In turn, that should lead to a smoother asset sort of growth over time. In other words, say lower highs, but most importantly, higher lows. And to the extent that you can smooth assets over time from an actuarial perspective, or the group that calculates the health of the funds or the funded ratios, it means more stability for the funded ratios, and then in turn, more stability for county contributions or increased budgetary certainty. So the market's really providing us with this opportunity to become more conservative, and we think it's an opportune time to put this for your consideration, to update these long-term strategic mixes, given where interest rates are, and still get to where we need to be over the intermediate term, say 7 to 10-year horizon. So with that said, I'll pause there. Happy to answer or address any of your comments or questions.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, and thanks, Michelle, and thanks to Kelsey for pulling this together. What have our losses been in?
Under what time frame, Commissioner?
Under the last year or 18 months?
So for fiscal year 22, from a return perspective over the three funds, they were probably in the low double digits. We've recouped that in fiscal year 23, given the markets have rebounded quite notably over the past 9 months. I'd note that during the time of market volatility that we saw in 22, given the diversification of the funds per the previous statement, they performed quite well on a relative basis compared to the benchmark that we use, compared to the peer group, which is other public defined benefit funds across the nation.
But we didn't meet our growth projections, though, correct?
Not in fiscal '22, but we were more than above it in fiscal '23.
That's good.
Make up for '22?
Just about. Fiscal year '22, we lost about $20 million. In fiscal year '23, we're anticipating recovering about $18 to $20 million. So we should get back to where we were in fiscal year '22. Now, our funded ratio is still about 68%, which is still under the government average on a national perspective. The government average is about 80%, and of course, the goal should be 100%.
Yep. Okay. And then just a question on the funds. We have non-U.S. equities?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are those in investments? Do we have any investments in development funds, overseas development funds?
Are you referring to emerging markets, sir?
Yes.
Yes, so of the non-U.S. equities, sort of the broad market, emerging market equities comprise about 30% of that. So if you look at the targets here.
And of that 30%, what percentage of that is invested in China?
In China, so China comprises about a third of the emerging market universe. So if you think of non-U.S. equities as a whole, emerging markets are about 30%, and then China is about a third of that. So 10% of the emerging market allocation would be in China.
Can we specify investments remain competitive, but, in an emerging market, or find a like investment opportunity that would be not in China?
Yes.
There's a higher risk for China. Rule of law, volatility there, no transparency, not following accounting standards, and they're a high competitor. And so any investment we put there is actually funding the demise of the American worker.
So from a couple of different responses, if you'll allow me for a second here, Commissioner. China itself, I fully agree with everything you just laid out there. From a fiduciary perspective, it's our job to try and drive the best risk-adjusted returns for the fund. So the concerns that you laid out there have really been driven into the Chinese market, which has not done well over time, but which leads it to trading very attractively, if you will, from a valuation perspective. So long-term, we would actually expect it to do well. Now, if it's the board's purview that you would not like us to make those investments, then there are other funds we could choose from that exclude China to still get emerging market exposure, but not allocate to that market. But that would be a board direction that then we could incorporate into the investment policy statement and have that constraint.
I would like us to think about doing that while keeping in mind, seeking, maximum benefit. And I think from my examination of alternatives, there are those there. And second question, are any of these in ESG funds?
That they are not. There are no dedicated ESG funds. Some of the underlying investment managers, so just take a step back, it's our job as the advisor to select, say, just simply mutual funds of investment managers, so like a Vanguard, a Fidelity, and the opportunity set is very wide. There are no dedicated funds saying ESG is our primary focus. Now, some of those funds incorporate that into their decision-making process.
But when they incorporate ESG, my examination of the record, over time, especially more recently, they are not showing to be as competitive as not being in ESG, having ESG as a consideration. So, we lose an opportunity to maximize our gain if some of the back end of some of these funds are actually incorporating ESG as part of their guidance.
Well, I think like everything in markets, it's very cyclical. So it depends on what time frame you're looking at. So in other words, in the early 2010s, if you will, where oil prices were stable or declining and ESG funds tend to exclude those companies, then ESG funds did well. Now, on the flip side of that, as oil prices have stabilized more.
I didn't even hear of ESG back in 2010. So.
Well, I would say that the moniker has changed over time.
Okay.
Right. So it was sustainability. Now it's come ESG. It seems to be fluid, to say the least. But more recently, to your point, Commissioner, as oil prices have stabilized and gained ground, particularly last year, then those ESG funds didn't do as well. So it's really the relative performance of what oil and oil price stocks are doing that are going to drive that. But it does fluctuate over time. It is cyclical over time. But again, if that's much like we talked about with China, if that's the purview of the board, we can certainly work that into the policy statement and make adjustments as appropriate.
So I'm less concerned about the ESG right now, Michelle, as compared to the China. And if there's a way for us to take a look at that, overall, I agree with all of this, but my one caveat is I'd like to find a way to remove us if we're maintain competitiveness from Chinese funds.
If I could just add.
I agree with Commissioner Harvey on that.
So I need to make a motion on that? How would I?
How we do perspective changes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but if I may, so within the statement, there is a prohibited investments section. So it would be simply adding Chinese equities. It'd be a very simple change, so.
Okay.
So I support this with the addition of prohibited equities naming Chinese investments. Including
that provision.
Right.
Yes, and we can make a subtle.
Okay, so we'll make that minor revision, and we should be able to move forward with it.
I have another question, but you have a motion, so I'm going to make a motion to support, but I have another question.
Go ahead.
See, one of the plans is LoSAP.
Yes, sir.
That's the retirement money that goes to our volunteers. What age is that based on for when our volunteers retire?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir, I don't have the answer to that. So
I'll have to get that for you. I don't have that with me either.
The actuary, so we're the investment advisor, we focus on the assets, the actuary.
I'll get that for you.
And why I bring that up,
Yes, sir.
it's not the appropriate time, but thank you for getting that information. I've had questions from the volunteers and comments about lowering the retirement age so they can start collecting some of the money earlier. And I think that has to also be initiated from the Fire Association and LoSAP committee to come to us. But I wanted to make sure we brought that issue up because that's the plan that funds that retirement, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that's why that might, but maybe in the future we decide to make any adjustments that would affect that. So I wanted to bring that up.
And to your point, Commissioner, that is, we work with about a half a dozen other Maryland counties, and that is a topic that's very prevalent today. Many of them are looking at the LoSAP benefits, particularly with COVID, and now the change from volunteers to perhaps, county employees. It's very prevalent across the state, and Bolton, the actuary, again, could certainly provide you additional information around what other counties are considering changes, and then also what changes you're proposing or under consideration, how that would impact the liability of the fund itself.
So Patrick, where are you out of? Where do you work?
I work out of Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir.
And the company you work for again is?
Is Marquette Associates. We're headquartered in Chicago, and then we also have an office in Baltimore.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
How was your trip here?
Easy. This is one of my closer trips.
Vote? Vote on the motion?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you for your
Patrick.
time.
Next item is construction bid award, Dogstreet Road Culvert replacement. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. Scott Hobbs, Director of Engineering. I'm here to recommend the board award the bid for the Dogstreet Road Culvert Replacement Contract to the lowest responsive bidder, Huntsberry Brothers of Smithsburg, Maryland, in the amount of $943,494. The project was advertised in the Herald Mail, on the county's website, and email Marketplace Advantage. 4 bids were received on Wednesday, June 21st, and detailed on the bid tabulation. The bids have been evaluated and the low bid is in order. The engineer's estimate was $950,000. The project involves the replacement of a pipe culvert with a precast concrete box culvert. Construction will also involve the placement of cast-in-place concrete end walls, asphalt paving, and traffic barrier installation. Project is a 250 consecutive calendar day contract with anticipated notice to proceed in August of 2023 and a completion date of April of 2024. There will be a road closure and a detour associated with the work. Public notices will be made and road signs posted prior to the start of the work. This is a capital improvement plan budgeted project, and the structure is in need of replacement. If you have any questions?
Through all the costs, does it really cost $332,000 for an 18-foot by 5-foot diameter concrete culvert?
Yes, we're seeing the numbers. If you look at the bid results, so they're in that range. It's also for the supply, the purchase of the box, and also the installation, so keep that in mind.
Okay.
Some of the contractors, with their money, put some of the money into mobilization, some put it in the items themselves. We have unit price items that are bid on a project and then dealt with in the field. But in this case, it's a lump sum cost for that box culvert.
Well, they are the little bit I recommend that we approve.
I second the motion.
Motion and second to approve is submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is bid award purchase 1619 Conococheague WIN 911 upgrade.
Good morning, Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Bradshaw, Director of Environmental Management.
So before you is bid award PUR 1619 Conococheague WIN 911 upgrade. Recommend the motion. Move to award a Conococheague upgrade to the responsible bidder with responsive bid. Microtech Designs Incorporated of Hempstead, Maryland, an amount of $52,550. Bids were received on June 14th of this year and advertised as we normally have to do by law in various media, also on websites. There's information as to what SCADA actually does do, but basically what they're going to be doing is upgrading from Windows 7 to Windows 11, along with some hardware and some configuration. There is fund budgeted in the capital improvement project, as listed in the ARF. There is a bid tabulation showing the price submitted by Microtech Design. Any questions?
Where is this exactly located, Mark?
The Conococheague wastewater treatment plant, right behind the admin office.
Okay. Will I see that when we go to the Clear Springs water plant?
If you want to come down to our plant, you can see this.
Okay.
This just for the Conococheague treatment plant. It's
Okay.
the only one it is for.
Okay, good. I motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve is submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next item is contract award, PUR 1606, Martin Luther King, natural gas and mechanical upgrades.
Again, Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Andrew Ashelman, Director of Public Works.
So before you is contract award PUR 1606, Martin Luther King, natural gas and mechanical upgrades. Recommended motion, move to award the contract for MLK natural gas and mechanical upgrade project. The responsive bidder, Mixed Plumbing and Heating Incorporated of Fairmont, Maryland, who submitted the lowest total sum bid in the amount of $93,300. Basically, what they're going to be doing is removing the old gas-fired furnace and putting in a new hot water burner and replacing the existing gas line with a new service line. And the project should be completed within 45 days. There are liquidated damages in the amount of $250 for every consecutive day the project is not completed. The project was advertised as we have to do in the fall, and there is funding in the division's capital improvement project. And there's a bid tab showing the prices that were submitted by the two bidders. Are there any questions?
Andrew, is this discretionary? We're moving from fuel oil to natural gas.
Correct.
What was
the impetus for that?
Yeah.
Several reasons. The original burner and the boiler is actually original to the construction of the school. So I believe 1949. So it's due for an upgrade. Also in the course of that, looking at the efficiencies of fuel oil versus natural gas. And so natural gas offers several benefits in terms of improved efficiency with the burners, as well as its
Lower cost.
And it's an on-demand service. We've had problems in the past, not with our current fuel service provider, but in the past with tanks needing to be filled up weekly and running empty and not having heat and that sort of thing.
So who are we supporting at Martin Luther King?
So several things. That's also the precursor for the county has the gymnasium there. The primary tenants Head Start. There's also Children in Need. So those would be the primary occupants of the building.
I second.
Okay, motion and second to approve is submitted. All in favor by saying aye. Same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, contract award, PUR 1607, Martin Luther King electrical upgrades.
Hi, Brandy Nagelfire in the Purchasing Department.
Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
The first recommendation I have for you this morning is the contract award PUR 1607, the Martin Luther King electrical upgrades. Move to award the contract for these upgrades to the responsive responsible bidder, Star Excavating and Electrical, out of Clear Spring, Maryland, who submitted the lowest total sum price of $204,372.60. There is a brief description of the project work in your report as submitted. The bid was advertised in the local newspaper, e-Maryland Marketplace Advantage website, the county's website. 4 companies were represented at the pre-bid conference, 21 companies downloaded the document, and 3 bids were received. There is funding available in the CIP budget for this project.
What's the advantage to the county of maintaining MLK building as opposed to selling it? What actual county services are there?
The gymnasium would be the county service.
Parks.
And historically, it's been an in-kind contribution to Head Start and the other programs there, which predate well before me. I know in conversations with prior Head Start staff, some of the issues from their standpoint of why they wouldn't want to buy it is they're federally, they receive federal subsidies, and so they can receive funds for rental of space, but for them to purchase the property and operate it, it's not in the best interest. So to say that the arrangement couldn't change, it's possible, but I think there would need to be further discussions to figure out what that would look like in the future.
Are we showing all of the, I guess, they're rent-free, so are we showing that in some way as a direct contribution by the county on a cost basis?
Previously, we had not. I did direct staff in budget and finance to ensure that in-kind contributions for all organizations are included in the fiscal year 23 financials. We should see that at the end of this, when I present the financials to you for the most recent closed fiscal year.
Thank you. Good. That's what I was getting at. Thank you. I motion to approve.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next item is rejection of bid of 1626, purchase or lease and supplying of golf carts for Washington County's Black Rock Golf Course.
Brandy Nagelfire in Purchasing Department.
Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
The next recommendation I have for you is the rejection of bid PUR 1626, the purchase or lease and supplying of golf carts for the Black Rock Golf Course. Move to take action in the best interest of the county to reject the bid without prejudice for the purchase or lease of supplying the golf carts for the Washington County Black Rock Golf Course due to the requirements of the bid specifications not being met by the vendor. We're also requesting permission to re-advertise a solicit for new pricing for the lease or purchase of these golf carts. The invitation of bid was advertised in the local newspaper, on the county's website, the e-Maryland Marketplace website. 15 companies downloaded the document, and we did receive 1 bid.
Do you need to rethink your approach to the specifications if you only received one bid and it was not meeting the requirements?
I don't,
Yes, I think we'll look at the issues. There's only so many vendors that provide these services, and the issue had to do with the replacement cycle that we requested versus an exclusion that they wrote in, so it wasn't something.
yeah, I don't think that the vendors didn't understand. We did actually have a vendor who missed it. And that's not the reasoning, because the vendor we did get just did not meet the specific specification that we wanted, which was we leased them for 6 years, but we want a replacement after 3. And this vendor didn't choose to do that. But for us, that's not beneficial because the maintenance costs could just pile up or, replacement of the car.
Okay, I move to approve.
All right, second, approve the rejection.
Okay, motion is second to,
Approve the rejection and resubmit.
exactly. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew, you're doing great work.
Next item is intergovernmental cooperative purchase price increase, uniform rental service for various county departments. Randy, good morning.
Good morning. Randy Nagelbauer in the Purchasing Department. The last recommendation I have for you this morning is intergovernmental cooperative purchase price increase for the uniform rental for various county departments. Move to authorize a price increase based on the utilization of this cooperative contract for uniforms with Omnia Partners via the Prince William County, Virginia contract awarded to Cintas out of Cincinnati, Ohio. The pricing is to increase as presented in the attached spreadsheet. The price increase varies between 3.7% and 8.33%. The Omnia Partners contract was awarded for a 5-year period. The contract did begin December 13th of 2018, and it will end October 31st of 2023. There is the option to renew up to 2 additional 1-year periods for this contract. The Code of Public Local Law does allow the county to utilize a contract by another jurisdiction as long as we abide by the same terms and conditions as presented. And I do believe the county will continuously benefit by this contract due to the economies of scale it is leveraged, and there is funding available in departments for this increase.
I motion to approve the intergovernmental cooperative purchase price.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next item is waterline funding memorandum with the town of Hancock and Bruceton Farm Services Incorporated.
County staff and the Board of County Commissioners met with the town of Hancock and Bruceton Farm Services Incorporated in 2022 regarding their request for financial support for an economic development and revitalization project. During the site plan review process for several business development projects underway on Main Street in Hancock, the State Fire Marshal identified the need for increased water capacity to meet fire suppression requirements at those project site locations. For longevity, cost savings, and proper water pressure needs, the construction of an 8-inch water line extension was determined to be the best long-term solution to provide adequate water supply and fire suppression to those sites. The town requested at that time funding from the county to support the project based on the potential benefit to Washington County that will result from increased attraction of businesses due to the new water line and the positive economic development consequences that will result from the establishment of the proposed businesses. The water line extension is estimated to cost $417,835. The town and Bruceton Farm Services have asked the county to fund 1/3 of the project cost in this private-public partnership. The town, BFS, and the county concurred to fund an equal portion of the final project cost in an amount up to and not to exceed $139,278.34. Bruceton Farm Service is responsible for any cost over the original estimate amount of $417,835. At this time, it is appropriate to approve and ratify the agreement and MOU to provide for the county's 1/3 funding for the capital improvements of this project, up to and not exceeding $139,278.34, and to confirm the source of funding for those improvements as CIP reserves.
So what I'm hearing, this is a partnership between 2 two other entities, the town and the business. This is like an economic development commitment we're helping the town with.
We're helping the town, correct. The water line from the point where it reaches those businesses to the town's water line will then revert to ownership of the town.
So this was, we discussed this prior to the 9 February MOU being signed? Mr. President, you signed it on 9 February?
It was discussed by the board, I believe, in October.
Predating us?
Predating us.
Okay. And then, but you then signed it on 9 February, but it was an earlier decision?
That's correct.
Okay. So since we signed this and it was based on the previous Board of Commissioners' decision, I think we have an obligation to follow through on it since the work's already been done and we've made a commitment to it. So I move to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Next item is potential dissolution of the Emergency Service Advisory Council, better known as ESAC.
Michelle Gordon, Acting County Administrator. The ESAC Committee was formed to provide recommendations regarding the provision of emergency services in Washington County. This committee serves in an advisory capacity only. Given the evolving nature of fire and emergency medical service delivery, the need for this advisory committee has diminished, and its continuing operation has become obsolescent and unnecessary. We do have concurrences from the Washington County Volunteer Fire Rescue Association and the Division of Emergency Services County Attorney as to that legal sufficiency. I will open it up to you now for any discussion and potential action.
I'd like to suggest that there's a meeting, monthly meeting, I think this Thursday, is of the ESAC committee. I've been contacted by an ESAC member that they were unaware of any of this discussion and would like to just have the opportunity to have the ESAC board the opportunity to thoroughly digest and review this coming Thursday evening. And with that, and also the fact that we do not have a full board here today, I think in respect of the two missing county commissioners, I'd like to just maybe bring this back at a later date.
Yeah, I'm all right with that. Commissioner Wagner's on vacation. He's active on that board.
Yeah.
So I'd like for him to be here for when we'd ever have a discussion. And allow, there's some very reputable people in that committee, so this is not about them and their character or judgment. It's just about the committee itself, not the individual. So I'm all right.
I'd like to see us bring it back when we were sure we have.
I'll make a motion that we bring it back.
Sure. Second that.
Okay.
Okay.
You good, Michelle?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. Motion is second to defer to a later date. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next item is MOU with the City of Hagerstown regarding outstanding emergency communications dispatcher cost.
Michelle Gordon, Acting County Administrator. In 2010, the city and county combined their separate emergency communication centers into a consolidated emergency communications center for dispatch of fire, emergency medical, and law enforcement personnel and equipment in Washington County. From fiscal year 2010 to fiscal year 2020, the city of Hagerstown paid an annual fee of $405,630 for wages and benefits related to those employees. The total amount of arrears is as follows. For fiscal years 21, 22, and 23, the base amount is $1,216,890. Interest for fiscal year 21 and 22's unpaid balances are $194,702.40. The balance due is $1,411,592.40. The city proposes that the county waive the unpaid interest of $194,000. The city proposes that the base amount owed for fiscal year 21 through 23 of $1.2 million shall constitute the county's contribution towards the Hagerstown Sportsplex on the former municipal stadium site, and that no money shall exchange hands for that transaction. The city also proposes that the base fee of $405,630 be reduced over 3 fiscal years until it reaches zero. Future payments as follows. For fiscal year '24, the base amount would be $304,500. Fiscal year '25, the base amount would be $203,000. Fiscal year '26, the base amount would be $102,500. And then in fiscal year '27 and future years, the amount would be zero. Fiscal impact on this for fiscal year, for the outstanding invoices for fiscal year '21 and '22, fund balance would need to be reduced by $520,964.55 in fiscal year '23. That's the net amount of those two outstanding amounts less the amounts that we wrote off in the prior fiscal year. For fiscal year '23's outstanding amount, revenue for fiscal year '23 would simply reduce by $405,630. And then in the future years, impact in fiscal year '24 would be reduced revenue of $101,000. Fiscal year '25, reduced revenue of $202,000. Fiscal year '26, reduced revenue of $303,000. And then in future years, $405,630 in reduced revenue. I'll open it up to you now for potential questions and consideration.
I have a question.
Yes.
Where do we make up the revenue? Does it come off what they call the numbers board, the fee that's on your phone bills? We get funding from that will replace that money, or where do we replace that revenue?
We actually haven't received the revenue for the last 3 fiscal years. So right now, if we wanted to make up for this revenue, we could increase the fee that we're receiving for the 911 surcharge, which would be part of the numbers board. We are not at the max rate for that. So that is something that we could consider as part of the fiscal year '25 budget. I wouldn't recommend making that change right now.
So that's for the future, but in the past, we have a credit in our balance sheet that says we're owed this money. Correct?
We have a debit.
A debit?
Yes, correct. A receivable.
A receivable.
A net receivable.
A net receivable. So how do we write that off?
It would reduce our fund balance because it is part of a prior year revenue. So we use the accrual-based accounting, so we've already recorded that revenue. So it would impact our fiscal year '23 financials in that it would reduce fund balance by $521,000, and then we wouldn't receive that revenue in fiscal year '23 of $405,000. So it would be about a $900,000 decrease in revenue for fiscal year '23.
Okay, so that will come out of our end of year balance.
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you. I motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second to approve. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. With that, I'll ask that we seek motion for closed session. Okay, motion is second for, to go into closed session is for the reasons stated. With that, we'll take a 5-minute recess and then come back in closed session.